Hello and welcome to Slow Stitch Style. My name is Catherine and this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about all things making, but it's mainly sewing and knitting that I focus on. Today I'm going to be doing a podcast episode where I talk about all the things I've been making in the last month and things that I finished and any acquisitions. Before we get started, I just thought I'd talk about what I'm wearing. So today I'm wearing the Nele sweater, which is by Gregoria Fibres. I think I knit it out of Rowan kid silk, 3 strands of that held together. It is due a bit of a wash, so around the cuffs it is looking a little bit tatty. So there we go. And then underneath that I have a Georgia top on, which is by Mimi G Patterns, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like that's an available pattern anymore. So this is a very old t-shirt. And I also have me made trousers on, but you can't see those, so we won't talk about it. And I'll move us on to finished items for the last month. I'm going to start my finished object with something that's been in the whip pile for a while, and that's these 2 Sydney rompers by ikatee, I think the pattern designer is. I believe they're a French pattern designer. So they're now finished. I've shown these a few times, but I hadn't quite sewn the buttons on yet. So I bought some buttons recently. Hopefully this is showing up. Some cute little buttons. They're like little flowers. And I put 3 on the placket bit here and only 2 on the bottom for the double gauze one, and 3 on the placket and on the sort of nappy bit on this one. So I finished these and I have no idea what I'm gonna do with them because I don't know anybody who's having a baby at the moment, but they're really lovely like scrap projects, so I wanted to get those done. So you know, they're ready in my arsenal. So we've got those, and I made them in the 6 month size, and that's the size I've made for quite a lot of friends when they've had babies. So yeah. The next thing sewing wise that I want to talk about is something that actually is a Christmas gift. I mean, my family member knows I get in this, and I don't think they'll be watching these podcast episodes. But basically I asked in my family chat if anybody wanted a Pouf, and mainly it's also a present to myself to help me get rid of all my fabric scraps. My sister said yes, she'd like one in stripes like Beetlejuice, so I've been making that. And if you watched my winter plans videos, I apologise because lots of the things I talk about on there are the things that I've either finished or I'm working on. So I've got to huff this off the floor. Ooh. Here we go. So here's the Pouf. Oh, it looks jazzy, doesn't it there? Ooh, I'm pretty proud of the stripe work. So it is a cotton canvas stripe fabric. And yeah, I decided not to try and do anything too complicated with the stripes, but I just tried to cut everything so all the stripes are in exactly the right place. Use a self-cover button on the top to hide the seam join area because it looks messy no matter what you do. I got some piping to do the top edge. Don't know if you can see that better from the side. And then it's just the plain stripes at the side. And I managed to do stripes underneath. Inside here as well, I actually made another Pouf out of scraps to contain all the big scraps, if that makes sense. So, oh, you can see some of my chalk lines. I'm not washing this. The reason I've made like an inner Pouf is so that if my sister wants to clean this outer one, she can. And the reason why she might want to clean it is, you know, it's white. So inside there's like a whole other one with a whole other zip. So that was made using a lot of my scraps as well. And then when you unzip this one, this is the one that's actually full of scraps. So there's like a cushion with scraps in, there's some wadding in there, there's bits of old clothes, there's all my scraps. I've managed to empty my scrap bin into it. It becomes quite heavy, but yeah, there's still time to shove some more scraps into this before Christmas comes and I hand it away to her. Although the fabric was a cotton canvas, I did get some medium interface in to stuff it even more, because to line it even more, just so it would be a bit more rigid. So yeah, and one thing I didn't think about when I was getting piping was the bottom of the Pouf, because it would have actually been nice to have done a piping edge there, but I also would have struggled for fabric, because I had enough of the fabric left over. I only bought 1 metre for this. I would have had enough. One day I'll have my words. I had enough fabric to make this piping here. I don't think I would have had enough fabric to do piping on the bottom as well. And originally I had been hoping that I could do the piping in a black, but when I washed this cotton canvas, I found that the black became more like of a charcoaly colour. And so when I was holding up other scraps of fabric that I have that are more of a true black, it did look a little bit strange and didn't really suit it. But actually I think more stripes looks good, and I'm really happy with this. Part of me thinks, oh, maybe I should have done like a pop of like orange green, you know, like there's a bit of green in Beetlejuice, isn't there? Or maybe a purple, but I think it looks quite chic, really, considering, you know, it's a Pouf inspired by Beetlejuice, so what are we expecting? And then the other thing that I talked about in my winter plans video that I have made recently was a stocking for my friend who's getting married. So I made them just like this really big stocking. If I held it up, it was almost like to my top thigh, and I'm quite tall, I'm like 5'7". So I bought some fabric to make that. I'm hoping I took a little video and some really bad pictures before I gave it away, because she had a hen do last weekend? Yeah, oh gosh. She had a hen do last weekend, and like the Thursday before, I was just on one, and I was like, I'm gonna get this done. So I spent like the 2 evenings making it. I'm in an iron about whether to embroider her initials on or applique. So what I did was I did applique them. Again, the main stocking was in a cream canvas, and then there was red details. So the initials were in red, and I backed the red cotton onto a really sturdy medium interfacing, then cut out their initials. I'd drawn their initials on some paper first and used that as a stencil. Then I used like a buttonhole zigzag stitch, like a really, really tiny stitch, and went around the edge of the initials to fasten it down onto the stocking. Also, at the bit that I interfaced, I managed to cut some love hearts out, which I put on the inside cuff of the stocking, which is really sweet. And I lined the inside of the stocking in the red as well. There was a bit of red piping on it, so I was pleased with that. I think it looked sweet. I do think my proportions were off because I just sort of freehanded it. It was quite long, but they wanted to stuff it with cards on the wedding day. So I just thought, cool, let's get that done. So yeah, that's what we did. We'll now move on to finish knitting projects, and I have realised that I have left one of them upstairs because I forgot that I finished it in that time. So I'll just dash off, and then TV magic, I will appear back in a second. Ta-da! Socks. I think I showed these on the last podcast as a work in progress. They'd originally started out as a pair of socks that I was going to gift away, and then I decided that I wanted to keep them. The reason why I hadn't brought them down was because I've been wearing them. So yeah, these are what I'm calling my festive socks. They're based on the stitch counts from Hanna Coopey's, Rachel Coopey's Hanna socks. So they are just a lovely sort of plain gusset heeled sock with some stranded colour work around the cuff and near the toe. This is in a blue shade of yarn from Coopey, and the beigey colour is from Earth Yarns. So I got those finished for myself, and I love them. Beautiful, very comfy, very cosy. So that's one pair of socks. And then in a matchy fashion, I've also finished the pair that actually will be gifted. So I am making a pair for my dad and his partner. I'm doing like a cozy night in, sort of hamper gift for them, and this is a pair for my dad that are finished. So I'd bought, again in the last podcast, I'd brought some Drops Nord in 2 colourways. So this is a deep ocean, and I'd also got the jeans blue, and I did decide to knit my dad the ones in the deep ocean because I preferred the colourless. And I ended up with, I bought 2 50-gram skeins, and I ended up with about 17 grams left because I was quite nervous because this is an 84 stitch count, which is much bigger than I normally do, and my dad's like a 10 or 11 UK foot size, so it's the biggest sock I've ever knitted for, I think, and I wasn't sure how much yarn it was going to use, so I have kept the cuff area or the leg area of the socks quite short, knowing not knowing how much yarn I was going to use, and also I actually quite prefer a shorter sock. But yeah, I'm happy with those, and again, use the earth yarns. I had brought the marzipan colourway of Drops Nord, but realised the earth yarns, I could just use up the scrap bits, and I think I used 6 grams in total across the 2 socks. I know I did. I've weighed my socks out. So yeah, one thing I did on these is because it is an 84 stitch count, it means that my 12 stitch repeat of the snowflakes leads to an uneven amount of snowflakes on each side. So on the one side you get the 3 with snowflake centralised, and then the other you kind of get the 4, and this is where the join of the round is. So on the first sock I just knit them as asked before I started turning for the heel, and on this I did like another half row, which just means that there is a right and a left sock ideally, so those bits where the joins are will be on the inside of the legs. I don't know if my dad will notice, but at least it means that no matter which way he wears them, they should look the same from the outside. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, so in comparison, just to show you, when I put these flat, she says, when I put them flat, where's the flat? Here we go. So you get 3 snowflakes on one side, 3 on the other side, 4 and 3, because of the extra stitches to make them bigger. So yeah, 2 pairs of socks done since the last podcast episode. I will say, someone had warned me that the Drops Nord isn't particularly amazing for wear. How do I say I care less for other people's socks than I do for my own. I'm not sure how much wear they'll get. And I'll just put some care instructions in the pack that I do for my dad and his partner. So yeah, they're getting some socks and like a nice candle and maybe some alcohol and or coffee. I can't decide whether to do cozy night in or cozy morning in the winter. But yeah, but I love mine, and I know that I love the sock share yarn. It's really hard wearing. So I think that's it for finished stuff. Let me just check my notes, which are down on the floor, so that's why I'm looking down. Yeah, that is everything. Now we're on to the works in progress, and whilst we're talking about socks, so I finished the socks for Dad yesterday. I cast them off, and I've gone now straight on to casting on the socks for his partner. They're going to be pretty much the same as the last 2 pair of socks that you've seen, and this is using the Drops Nord. I think it's a jeans blue or denim blue. I'm hoping I will correct myself and put the proper name down at the bottom, but I much prefer this colour blue to the other one, so that's why I decided to do it for Dad's partner instead. She's got much smaller feet, so I'm back to the 72 stitch count, and I think Dad says she's a size 4 or 5, UK 4 or 5, which is smaller than my feet. So I'm confident I'll get those whipped up quite quickly. When I did my winter plans video, I thought, oh, I've given myself way too much to do. But Dad's socks took me about 20 days, and mainly I've been knitting those when I'm at work. So I go for a walk in the morning and realise I can knit and walk, and I managed to get about 10 rows in, so I'm not knitting my fastest. and I will say that will probably slow down. Now it's getting really cold. I did try and knit with gloves on the other day, which again I can do, but you lose so much dexterity that you don't realise that you have. Yeah, so onto those socks now, and that's one of the priorities to get finished, but again, confident I can get that done. They're meant to be a Christmas gift, but I'm hoping that I'm working a lot over Christmas, is what I should say, and therefore I'm hoping that I could get it done a bit easier, because my friend's wedding is on the 20th of December, and I'm thinking actually maybe I could go and see my dad on that day and give gifts then. My parents aren't together, so we tend to spend Christmas with my mum, so that's why. And I'm literally only off on Christmas Day at the minute, so I'm not going to have time to do everything. So yeah, and then in the spirit of knitting, the other work in progress I am on is Graham's jumper still. So this is the Lærdal T5119, I think, pattern, yep, by Sandnes Garn. So in the last podcast, I think I should have left the stitch, maybe I did. I was on the body, and I don't know if the stitch marker I've put here, can't see it there, if I put here is an indication of where I was at the last podcast. I don't think it was, but we are finished with the body. Where's the front? Here. There's not that much shaping in it, but the colour work looks great. Really happy with it. I think I said in one of my shorts, this has been quite a humbling pattern for me to use. I wouldn't say like I'm definitely not a beginner knitter, but I wouldn't say I'm like anywhere near expert, but I say I'm pretty competent, know how to do a lot of knitting techniques, pretty confident following a pattern. But this pattern is so scant, so if you are quite new to knitting, do not use this pattern. It's things like when you're doing the body, it just gives you the chart. It doesn't tell you like to knit between the armholes and then start the pattern again. The next thing, like most knitting designs that I've done, the pattern will just repeat round the body. It doesn't stop and start at either side. So I started going and I was like, this is not lining up. Something's not right here. This is the side section. You can just see there in the middle. This is the side section where I will then have to steek. I haven't put steeking stitches in. I don't know if I should have put steeking stitches in. It didn't tell me to, but then should I have used my intuition? I don't know. So that's kind of made me doubt myself. But the body's finished. I did knit it shorter than it told me to. I find that men's patterns are often too long in the body for Graham. So hopefully that's fine. And we'll see what it's like when it's blocked and ready to go. And then also I have done one sleeve. So there we go. Again, I did knit it a bit shorter and I am a little bit worried that maybe I went too short. But it is a dropped shoulder and I know that with blocking this will grow. And worst comes to worst, I can always knit it a bit longer. So you do a short repeat of colour work. And then this is quite new for me. I haven't done this before with steeking. It then tells you at the top to turn the knitting inside out and knit back and forth doing stockinette. And this stockinette section, when you connect it to the body, covers up the raw edge. I hope that makes sense. So it will go inside and cover up the raw edges of where you've steeked. And then I have cast on for the second sleeve here. Cast this on last night whilst we were watching Batman Returns, I think it was. The one with Danny DeVito playing the penguin, if anybody knows that. So yeah, this has been the sort of primary focus of my time and energy, has been knitting really. I find that during the winter time I don't sew as much. this is where I get more into my knitting and the sewing sort of recedes, and then like spring, summer is when I'm more into my sewing and the knitting kind of recedes. So yeah, I'm happy with my progress on that and feel pretty confident that that'll be done in the next couple of months. This is like my sitting on the sofa at home project. Oops, just dropped some. And I'm really confident. Again, if you watch my winter making video, I was talking about hoping to have enough left over of this to make Graham a stocking for Christmas. I definitely will have enough. And then I've also got this Romper Garn Finale in the blue colourway, and I'll have a stocking in the blue with a white contrast, and he'll have it in this colour, which is like his colour. When I think about Graham, I always think of like rusty reddy colours. So yeah, and it does look beautiful. I think I mentioned before, I had knit myself the Festive yoke pullover in that originally and didn't love the colour on me. It just didn't suit me as much. Whereas the blue one I feel like really does. I have blue eyes, so I feel like it really sets that off. But that's all my knitting works in progress. And then we move over to the sewing basket. So in the last podcast, I talked about the patchwork blanket that I've got. I've made cushion cover. I've made no progress on that, and I'm just leaving that to the side. I think I mentioned that I don't really know what I want to do with it. I'm not sure if I want to carry that on, and that's just after spending a whole year making a hand sewn patchwork quilt and just needing a bit of a break. I say it's hand sewn. The front was hand sewn, the back was not, and then I hand stitched the two bits together. And then there's also the Simplicity trousers in my sewing basket that I still haven't touched. And I keep saying to myself, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to cut anything else out until you make those trousers, Catherine. And yet I cut things out and make other stuff. So whilst I was cutting out the closet core Pouf for my sister, I did also cut out another gift that I talked about wanting to make for Christmas, and that was some of a couple of pairs of the Comox trunks. This is a pattern by I want to say Thread and Theory, but I think it's Thread Theory. They have pretty good menswear patterns, so I would recommend some of them. I've got this and a pair of trousers that I've made for Graham. Jedediah pants is what they're called. So I haven't made him a pair of boxers for a long time, but they are a really good pattern to use for scraps in the same way that I've made myself underwear. And I was hoping to have enough fabric left over from my stripy jersey top that I shared last month and Graham's stripy jersey top to make the boxers. And I was more worried about Graham's because there was not a lot of fabric, but through the magic of squeezing the pattern pieces as tight together as absolutely physically possible, I have managed to cut out a pair in both colourways, and I'm hoping to get those sewn, and they'll be like a little stocking filler type of present. I've also got some elastic to use with these. So for the blue pair, I've got like a really nice navy elastic that looks really nice together. And then the green pair, I think I'm just going to do a white band. I've got this really nice like plush elastic that's really soft. So I'm hoping that'll look nice together. And then the other sewing project that I cut out at the same time was something for me to wear to my friend's wedding. So again, I did talk about this in my winter plans, and I wanted to make the Batana button-up shirt by, is it Friday Pattern Company? Yeah, by the Friday Pattern Company. And originally I'd bought about 1.5 meters of this fabric, and I was hoping to make the short sleeve version, which I realized that like that was saying you need 1.6 meters. So already I was like, am I gonna fit the short sleeve version out of it? And then imagine my surprise and delight when I realised I could fit the long sleeve version out of it, which works so much better. As I mentioned, my friend's getting married on the 20th of December, so it's a winter wedding. I thought this shirt would look really good with my Monday sweater from PetiteKnit, and then wearing my September coat over it, and then I have a beret and a little scarf that match the jumper, and I love like navy blue on me, and then I'll probably wear a black skirt and black trousers and black shoes. So yeah, I just need to get that sewn up, and I'm going for the version that has the necktie as well. So maybe I won't wear my little Sophie scarf that matches, because it might be too much necktie action going on. But I do need to get this sewn up. But I have realised I don't have any buttons in stash that I don't think I do, that I would like to use with this. Which means that I might have to purchase some from Textile Garden. I don't know if I have yet to profess my love of Textile Garden. It is like my go-to place to buy buttons. I've tried other places like Merchant & Mills. I love Merchant & Mills for the fabric, but the button quality of Textile Garden is fantastic. Their cotton buttons, I think, are the best ones that I've bought. I sort of like the Corso effect ones. Corso, I don't know how you say that. So yeah, so the Batana button up is being made with this gingham that I bought at Backstitch when I went there in September. It's kind of a little bit seersuckery, but not, and I think it will look beautiful. I don't know if I've talked about how I approach sewing projects, but I keep them in project bags in a bigger tub, but then I do tend to keep all the bits leftover from cutting out, because I like to sample stitches. So I don't know if it's in here, but I will sample different colour threads to make sure that I'm happy with the thread colour that I want. And I also use it just to test like buttonholes before I do it on the main fabric, or test my tension on my overlocker as well. So yeah, so that's that for works in progress. I've kind of tried to reduce them a bit just to help me focus. Ideally, I'd like to go into the new year with no works in progress. I don't think that's going to happen. Let's be realistic. And then, yeah, let me just double check. That definitely is everything. Yes, it is. Let's now talk about acquisitions. Whilst I've been talking about some of these projects, I've talked about the fact that I have been buying fabric. So since the last podcast, I bought the stripy fabric to make my sister the Pouf. I brought a like cream cotton canvas to make my friend the stocking, along with a red cotton as well that goes inside of that. I brought some medium interfacing whilst I was at the shop. And I also brought the little daisy buttons to finish off the city romper. So that's kind of everything that I bought in a big shop. That's everything I brought firsthand, like new materials. The other things that I bought have been charity shop bargains, and I've just sort of shoved them all into one bag. But I'll start with the stuff that I got first. So I went into a charity shop near me. It's one that I don't go into very often, but I felt like I had an absolute score in there. So it's got quite a big craft section, and I was doing some proper rummaging around. So some of the stuff I've already used. So I found a big bag of wadding. It was probably about, I don't know, I'm not even going to guess how many grams it was. It's a bag of wadding, and I knew I wanted to make my sister the closet core Pouf. And whilst I love filling it with my own scraps, I like to intermix my scraps in with like a poly wadding. A, it makes it lighter, and B, it just makes it a little bit softer, because fabric scraps can be a bit dense and not as nice to sit on. So I got that, and I also got a big 20-inch zipper, which originally I was going to do on the outside of the Pouf. And then when I got home, I realised I had a nice thinner invisible zipper. So I used a chunkier one for the inner Pouf lining. And the other reason why I did that is because that zipper was really chunky, and I just thought it's potentially going to scratch up a floor or be really annoying noise-wise when you move it around. So I decided not to get that. So I think the interfacing cost me £2.50 and the zip cost me 50p or £1. Pretty cheap. I got some, hopefully that will focus. I got some elastic. I should also say, I've got a new light as well. So it does mean that when I'm putting everything near, I'm very near to the light source. So I apologise, but hopefully it's making the overall quality of these videos better. But basically I got some white elastic with a picot edge, which would be great for underwear making. I'm not sure how many meters. I think again, it was like £1.50 maybe. But the biggest bargain that I got in that shop was yarn. I've transferred it into one of these organza bags, but it was in a big plastic bag. Ooh, ghostly. It's in a big plastic bag, and it was 9 balls for £4. And most of the balls, hopefully you can see, are roughly about this size. I haven't weighed them. I need to weigh them and add them into Ravelry, which I'm normally pretty good about. So, again, I'm hoping it will focus. It's this really beautiful, like greeny blue. There's like a browny colour in there, like orangey brown. And I am pretty confident that this is pure wool. It feels like wool. I'm not sure what ply it is. Where can I hold that up where you can actually see against my hand maybe? It's quite fine. Kind of like a fingering weight, I'd say. So if I want to knit something, it's going to be quite big or slow. And yeah, it looks like it was something else and it's been unravelled because there's a bit of a kink in the yarn. Yeah, when I hold it light, I can see these red bits coming off it. And I thought that this would make a really nice jumper for Graham actually, because it sort of reminds me of lots of the colours that are in his palette, and it would just be this really nice marbled effect. So yeah, hoping we get a jumper out of that for Graham. And for £4, I just thought I would be stupid not to get it. So like, I know I don't need yarn, but yeah, it's like a jumper's weight for that much money. And if it's not a jumper, I'm sure can fashion something out of it, whether it's hat and scarf and gloves. And then like a week later, you know, I decided Saturday morning I was just gonna sort of wander around. It must have been last Saturday before my friend's hen party. I was like, I'm just gonna wander around the charity shops in the morning before I start the day properly. And I came across some more yarn. So the first thing that caught my eye was these skeins of Cascade Yarns alpaca lace. They're a little bit messy. I think they've been catching on things. But yeah, so these are 100% baby alpaca. They're 50 gram skeins and contain 400 meters per skein. And you know what, like with buying yarn, I'm always like, or fabric, don't buy unless you know what you're going to make with them. And I have to admit, I don't know 100% what I want to make with them, or I didn't when I bought them. I just thought, £1 a skein for alpaca. They're coming home with me, and it's this really nice soft grey. I am a bit of a sucker for grey. You can tell I'm wearing it. And actually, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, this could be really helpful. I've been thinking of making either like a bonnet or the sort of like a Sophie hood, but not the Sophie hood, where it's a hat and scarf in one, bonnet and scarf. So the reason I want to knit a bonnet is because having a fringe and shorter hair, if I wear a hat, often my fringe gets really like pushed down, or like I look like I've got no hair. That it's like one or the other. And I think a bonnet just sort of sitting around would be nicer. Or for like a beanie to look nice, it's often then not covering my ears. So yeah, the bonnet scarf thing feels good. Obviously don't want to make it in the lace weight. This would be like a second yarn that I would be holding with it. So I would have to buy more yarn to use this up. But I think that's kind of my intention with it, is that it would make a really good hat and scarf combo garment bonnet type of thing. And in September I made the Chiro fingerless mitts, and in a grey colourway with leftover yarn, probably from this jumper. And so yeah, that was like a mohair knit with a fingering weight. And I don't really have anything else accessories wise that I can wear with it. I think I've said before, I'm a real matchy girl. I don't like to be mismatched with things that I wear. So if I made the bonnet scarf thing with these, I could then have the matching mitts, and they wouldn't be a perfect match, but they'd be this similar colourway. So yeah, got the 2 skeins of Cascade Cascade yarns, the alpaca, and it's so soft. Honestly, it feels amazing. I just want to hold it the whole time. And then the other thing that I got, also cost me £1, was some Debbie Bliss cotton DK weight yarn. Again, like I said, apologies, the new light is lighting. It's doing its job. So this, as I mentioned, is a DK weight yarn, 100% cotton, 50 grams, 84 meters. And the reason I picked this up, I don't like to knit normally with cotton. I tend to crochet stuff, and I'm thinking basically of making a coaster. So upstairs in my sewing room, again, sounds grandiose. Upstairs in the spare room where I have a sewing area and Graham also has a hobby area. Sometimes when Graham brings me a tea, I don't have a coaster to put it on, or I've moved the coaster into the bedroom if I've had a cup of tea when I'm reading in bed. So I thought, I'm going to knit a little flower coaster, and I saw this pink yarn and I thought it'd be perfect. But again, I'm then like, oh, but what am I going to do the centre of the flower in? So maybe I need to buy some yarn to do the centre of the flower. And then I probably don't. But yeah, I picked that up, £1. You know, you can't go wrong. So yeah, Debbie Bliss. I've not really used a lot of Debbie Bliss. I think the fun sweater I knit for Graham was a Debbie Bliss as well. So be interesting. And also I love this pink colour. I don't know how true it is reading on the screen. But yeah. It's like a really pale rosy pink, like a pale rose. Very nice. So that will become a coaster, probably multiple flowery coaster things that will go around the house, or I'll crochet something else with it. So yes, lots of yarn acquisitions, and my yarn cubby hole is really filling up. If anyone would ever be interested in like a stash video, then do let me know. I will say my stash is not massive. Like, I've watched a lot of knitters, and I think it's a Norwegian knitter I was watching recently, and she mentioned having like nearly 40 kilos of yarn, I think, and mine's probably, I can't remember if I was doing grams or meters. I think it was like 2 kilos. So I really don't have a lot of yarn. I try not to have a lot of stash, and that's just personally because I get so stressed with it. And what I would love to do is get to a place where I buy stuff and make with it quite quickly. So that is the one good thing about all of the fabric acquisitions that I've had this month. They've then instantly been made into the thing, so they're not like lingering around in my stash, which is brilliant. Although, just to slightly waffle and go off tangent, I use Stash Hub to track my sewing projects, and they've just added this really great feature of a marketplace, so you can sell some fabric to other makers if you want to get rid of any stash. And there's like a gauze that I've put on for sale, but if it doesn't sell, I'll use it as a swirl. But yeah, I think that's a really great feature, and I'm really happy about that. And again, if anyone's interested in stash things, or me talk about how I organise my projects, whether that's knitting or sewing or both, kind of have like a multi-pronged approach, I'd be very happy to talk about it. But that's the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you got all the way to the end, massively appreciate it. And if you want to like or subscribe, that would make my day. Coming up over the next few weeks, I am finally going to get around to doing my big wardrobe review. So I'm going to review every garment that I have made for myself. Maybe not the underwear. You do not need to see me in underwear on the internet. But I'll be reviewing all of those and talking about what I want to keep and what might need rehoming. So if you want to see that, do stick around, do subscribe. And yeah, if you're interested in sewing and knitting stuff, here's a place to be. But yeah, as I said, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.